Hello and welcome to the Yachting Golfer. Yes, I've changed the name. We've got a few things coming up that is quite exciting, and we just really needed to change the brand name to get it all under the one umbrella. So we've decided the Yachting Golfer is going to be the brand name going forward. We were on the Gold Coast, which means we're in lockdown. So not much joy, but I have had time to go through and give you guys now a look at the Triggs interview. Triggsy was very generous with his time and answered all my questions, and I've got some great tips for amateur golfers. I mean, great tips for touring pros, but also we talked about Karrie Webb, Rachel Hetherington. I mean, all his great players, John Senden and Elvis Smiley, and the new crop of golfers coming through. Stay tuned. I'd like to do more with Triggsy coming up, but at this stage we are in lockdown, so we can't really do too much at the moment. So enjoy the content that I've got for you, and I hope there's going to be a lot more soon as we're out of lockdown. Here we are with the great man himself, Triggs. Ian, welcome to the channel. Thank you very much for your time.
Great to sit down with you, Jose.
Mate, I've known you for a little while now, and your reputation is incredible. Unfortunately for you, you had to deal with my golf swing, so let's not judge him on that, by the way. You've dealt with so many great players. I think it would be probably best to start with Karrie and how that all happened, and yeah.
Well, firstly, I was very fortunate. I was state coach for Queensland women's team and the junior girls, and basically I first met Karrie when she was 12 years of age, coming down from Ayr, and she was in the squads, and yeah, it's just even then at 12 years of age you knew there was something special. And as a young girl and going to Melbourne with some squads and everything, I had a phone call from Stephen Van, who was one of the leading coaches down at the Victorian AIS program down there, or the VIS, and he said, "I don't think I've seen anyone chip like this." He said, "She's beating all the boys." So yeah, so going way back to there, so yeah, a little bit of involvement there, but she had her own coach in Ayr at that stage, and yeah, so from there, basically, when I went to the US with Rachel Hetherington, over there working with Rachel, who was very successful, won 8 times, 4 runner-ups in majors, beat Annika twice in playoffs. So Rachel was an exceptional player as well. So they won the World Cup together. So through all that time, I had a lot of contact still with Karrie, and then eventually, she got to a stage where her coach stuck in Australia, and me travelling over there, finished up going back to work with her. So that was exciting because she was probably struggling at that stage, and I was able to help her and turn her career back on track again. We got a major straight away, not too long after I started working with her again. So yeah, so a lot of joy, a fantastic player. Just a great person to be around off the course. On course, pretty brutal.
Well, that's an interesting point. You've dealt with so many players, all different levels, tour pros.
Yeah.
What made Karrie so great, in your view? I mean, was it a simple mechanics? Was it a mind? I mean, what was it?
Just the sheer determination, the drive. Just a champion mindset. Basically, phenomenal skills, of course, with her ability to play all shots, phenomenal chipper, bunker player. All the skills were there, but you can have all those skills, but if you don't have that total desire and that commitment, you're not going to get it done. And she had really so many areas that were so good.
Yeah. I mean, she is the leading Australian as far as majors.
Yes.
I mean, she's an absolute legend in her own right. Moving forward from Karrie, you've taken on a whole bunch of players. let's talk about the more recent ones that you're working with.
Yes, well, I basically, because of the fact of travelling over there and to the US and having contact with a lot of players there on tour, I finished up working with Pat Hurst, who won a couple of events with her, and so a lot of elite players over there. Maria Hjorth, got to work with her, powerful Swede who could really play. Probably the best female ball striker that you could ever see.
Wow.
But just not quite the strength mentally that would have taken her past everybody.
Sure.
But she was one that could have gone on the tour and played against some men successfully.
Wow.
She was that good. So didn't quite have the full package in the belief and trust area, and and then of course from there I started to work with a few Koreans. I had a few Koreans. Ilmi Chang wanted to work with me, and so there was a few players over there that started to get interested, and then all of a sudden I had Soyeon Roo come on the scene. I had Uni Ji, and both major winners working with me, and the whole Korean thing started to really grow. I got very fortunate. I was able to get a lot of talented young players who wanted to go down the track of my guidance. So yeah.
What is it with the Korean ladies? Why are they so dominant?
They seem to basically have this ability to stay composed out there. There's very little emotional changes when they play. They're very, very composed, and they work extremely hard. Generally physically they're just seem to be the right build for golf. Yep. Strong, and so you'll continue to see that. There's so many young players in Korea playing. I went to a junior tournament that had 900 entries. So you had 3 days of qualifying to then get into the tournament. So it just shows you from the amount of people that are playing, and the love of the game in that country is incredible. So so that's why Korea is so strong.
Well, obviously now with COVID, there's no international travel. You're predominantly now going to be based online during this period, is that right?
Yeah, so basically what's happened is I've lost a lot of my players. As of course they'd like to have the interaction, but there's a few that I'm still working with, like Mo Martin, who's probably at the end of her career. Not quite finished yet, but so I'm still doing online work, FaceTime work with her, and John Senden and Karis Davidson in Japan. She's great round yesterday, 6 under. So there's still the chances of working online. It's like, wow, I never thought I'd be able to teach people online, but you can. I'm quite shocked by it. So. And because you've been watching body language all the time, you see the emotions, you can see that they're uncomfortable, what have you, and I never thought that I'd be able to see that on camera. But it's been quite an eye-opener for me, so I'm quite happy with the fact that I've still got the overseas stuff, a little bit of it happening.
Yep. Are you going to mainly focus still on tour players, which is you've had so much success with, or are you going to open it up a little bit more? Your weekend golfers, can they take some of your time?
Yeah, well, I still do. I still have, I'm not teaching anywhere near as much as what I used to, but I'm still open to the public at this stage. I'm still giving some private lessons and what have you. And look, I certainly need to give back to the game. The game's been great to me, so I've got some online series that I'm bringing out, development for juniors. Very simplistic golf motion video I've got coming out, and then I'll have a whole detailed jump in the deep end, get yourself totally confused, technical one. Which I don't like. But
no, I was surprised you said that. For anyone that hasn't had a lesson with Triggsy or hasn't been fortunate enough to do so, I would say the simple approach seems to be the best for you. I've had many golf coaches over the years, but Triggsy just seems to be able to get me to do what I need to do by working on feelings, which works for me. I mean, everyone's different, right? So is that the Ian Triggs way, or are you very adaptive?
Oh, look, I think I can go most ways, but I really believe that the golf swing is a motion, and there's far too much technical position aspects being taught, and you need to allow those things to occur rather than try to physically produce them. And so it's been, it's a really tough time for people because there's so much information available online, and they get caught up with so much technique. And then, of course, human beings don't operate with 27 things going on in their head. So it's trying to find your keys so you stop the search, trying to find simple drills and simple things that will help you get the quietness to be able to play the game well is so important.
So with what you're seeing from your tour players, you probably think that's slightly more mental than mechanical, obviously, because they're on the tour. How about your average golfer?
Well, your average golfer can still play really well with aspects that are not 100%. I mean, even on tour, if you look out there these days, you see the equipment's got easier to use. You've got balls that don't crazily spin anymore and go sideways as much. You've got equipment that's more forgiving. And if you get your mind in the right place and you play with what you have rather than fighting what you have, you can still play quite well. If you're going to go down the refinement route and change patterns in your swing, well, you need to get serious about it and find the information that you need to make those changes, commit to it. But when you go to play, you've got to leave that stuff at home. You've got to go out there and play with your vision of what you want from the ball. Most people don't realise how strong their mind is. And if you desire a certain flight from the ball, most chances are that your brain and your abilities can produce that. But most people don't want to go down that track. They all want to head down trying to find the technical reasons that's not occurring. So, yeah, it's a tough balance when you're caught between a rock and a hard place.
Oh, absolutely. I know that well. You know I know that well. Going forward with your online, is there anything in particular that maybe you could help our viewers at home with that maybe they can't get online yet? Is there something simple, whether it's a certain grip or is it a stance? Is there something simple that you see the majority of golfers are really struggling with that may be able to just help that viewer at home?
Yes, well, I think that basically you need to understand that the putting through to the driver is a very similar motion, and that basically the understanding that your body is rotating and moving the arms, moving the hands, moving the club. And if you can learn to move away rather than take away, and allow the sequence of movement, allow the club to be able to swing rather than getting aggressive and trying to hit, you'll give yourself a basis of quality motion, and that's probably what you've got to do. And when you practice swinging, allowing the club to touch the ground, and some really simplistic stuff, being able to see the ball clearly. When you tell people to watch the ball, there's a big difference between watching it and seeing it. So the simplistic things like that are overlooked these days because we're far too technical for that. We've got all this advanced technology, so we finish up with looking in really technical spots rather than going back to some simplistic ones.
No, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I get to play still with a lot of people, and everyone seems to be overcomplicating it.
Absolutely.
My general rule is just keep it simple.
Have to do that. You have to when you go out to play, I'm going there, feel it, see it, step up, watch the ball, let your brain take control. It's quite amazing, like I said before, how powerful it is. But if I've got to check my grip, got to check my alignment, make sure I got this right, make sure I got that right, well, you're over. That shot's going to be no good.
You're in trouble.
Yes,
Yeah,
you're
no,
in trouble.
I absolutely agree. Now, Elvis Smiley, I'm fortunate enough, I've played some golf with him, and terrific young kid.
Very good young man.
He's got you.
Yes.
Tell me, what's going on with Elvis?
Started with Elvis when he was 7, so it's been just a building process all the way, and refinement. And yes, the results end of last year were quite frightening. Quite outstanding young player. Yeah, look, physically he's still got some work to do. He's still very tall and thin for 18, 19 years of age, so we've got to get some beef on him at some stage. He is working on that and has been working on that for many years, but as a young man, you've just got to be patient with that and let that happen. So, but yeah, he looks very exciting, and so he's hoping that he can go and do that. He's gone to Europe. He's actually injured himself at the moment, as of yesterday, and so he's had to pull out of the tournament in Ireland this week. So, but hopefully he can get settled in the next month or so, and yeah, sitting out of the long grass in Ireland, he's actually strained his back a little. So, yeah, which is disappointing.
Unusual injury for someone so young, but
yeah, it is.
brutal.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, you don't want to miss too many fairways over there.
I mean, he's such a tremendous young kid.
Yes.
Really, he still is a kid. He has, from what I saw last year, just as a spectator, he just seemed to have so much golfing wisdom.
Yes, he does.
Where's that come from? Is it his family being athletes? And
I think he's been very fortunate along the way, because he's basically got his mum, who's an outstanding tennis player, and sports families like that have a lot of knowledge in the basics of how to behave, how to prepare, and everything like that. So he's had that upbringing. He's very creative, so he's been able to play all sorts of different shots. He loves that sort of stuff. So very much a feel person. Doesn't want a lot of mechanics, and it was quite funny the other day. He came up and he said, "Every time I have a chipping lesson, you don't say much." I said, "What do you reckon?" Chipping it up. Yeah, we're looking out here over the 18th green here, and he hit 2 chips there the other day. Probably 20, 30 metre jobs that landed on the green, trickled into the hole, one after the other. I'm just standing there shaking my head in disbelief at the talent level. So, yeah, look, he's got a ways to go. Young guy starting out, going into the deep end now, and yeah, he'll need to get his composure back and his trust and his belief at this next level. And
well,
it was interesting to watch.
I spoke to him last when I was here to see you, actually, and we spoke to him on the putting green. He sort of indicated he was about to turn pro. Didn't want to break any news. Is there a right age to turn pro these days? I mean, they seem to be so young.
Yeah, they're very fortunate, aren't they? I mean, they're getting all the information very young these days. I mean, I think I was probably ready at about 35 years of age after starting at 12. They're getting the best of information, both technically, physically, mentally. They're getting, and if they've got the maturity to put that into place and handle it, they're going to be ready at a younger age. They have to be.
Yeah.
So certainly his physical areas holding him up at this stage. But that'll be something that we just got to be patient with and come out the other end.
No, that's right. And we wish him all the absolute best.
My word. We're very proud of him. We're proud of the work he's done and where he's got to.
All the success to him. Now, we know so much about the players that you've helped. I want to know more about you.
Me?
How did it all start with before Ian Triggs, the great golf teacher? I mean, what made you go from playing to teaching?
Well, first of all, I was very fortunate. A young man who started at 12 years of age. My dad had just given away rugby league. Dad was a very successful rugby league player, and I was a good rugby league player. We won the Bundaberg High, won the state titles in rugby league, so we had a very good rugby league side. And Dad took up golf at 28, and I was in the backyard there watching Dad, and next minute I'm out there swinging as well. And Dad said, "Wow, you swinging great. You've got a lot of natural ability there. Let's get into it." So I was fortunate enough for them to let me play. They actually wanted to, go and play. And then Dad said, "Well, you're not going to play rugby league anymore. That's it. You are now playing golf." So, and then, at that age, turning pro was like, back then in the 60s, it's sort of, you should get an education and you shouldn't be going down professional sports areas. But Mum and Dad supported me turning pro, and look, my career as an amateur was very good, but towards the end of my amateur career, I lost the track. I lost my way. Far too technical, far too anxious and soft mentally, I believe. I just didn't have the full formula there at that stage, and so I actually gave the game a big rest. I walked away from it probably when after my first couple of years as a pro, because I just wasn't achieving anywhere near like I was as an amateur. And then it just hit me. I said, "No, look, I've got to go back. I've got to find out why. Why is this all falling to bits?" So probably at the age of 24, I decided then I was going to go back and search. Anyway, I hadn't done much coaching. I'd done a little bit, but I just fell in love with it. I just went out and teaching and helping people. I just found it so rewarding. I really enjoyed it. So kept searching and putting pieces together, and so that's what occurred.
So I've been fortunate enough to have had great golf coaches try to help me along my journey, and some of them say they knew because when someone swings a golf club, they could just instantly see problems in their golf swing. I think Butch Harmon calls it a cancer. And is that what happened to you? And you thought, well, I've got a lot to offer with teaching more than pursuing your own sort of glory as a player?
Yeah, no, I just really enjoyed being able to give people little pieces of information and see their improvement. I don't perceive anyone's swing as basically having major trouble to it. I just see that they need to just tidy up a little bit here and there rather than rebuild or whatever. So I probably have out of coaching is for me to see that person, no matter what level they are, get some improvement. And that's what I've really loved about teaching. I can feel as though, and now, especially with years and years of gathering information, I feel as though I can help people. So that's what I really like about it.
Well, from a player's point of view, I think that has made the difference. When I went to Ian first up, I had a few swing faults that I've been trying to change, that I thought Ian might just go, "That's the problem, you need to fix it." It wasn't the case at all. And it was very subtle, which means I could still play. And when I first went to Ian, I gave him an impossible task. I think I gave you 4 weeks, and I had Q school in Asia.
Yes.
And no pressure. But you managed to make those adjustments. I mean, I knew that I had to come back and work a lot harder, but you gave me a few band-aids to get me through, and it was actually one Asian I did get a guard, so didn't play great, but that's okay. We got the job done. I mean, that's what I find with you, and we don't like to make comparisons because everyone is so different. As individuals, some may really respond to visual, some may need more information. I mean, how are you with TrackMan? I mean, stuff like that. I mean, are the radar systems something that you need, or is it more ball flight?
I can see what what TrackMan sees. So I've been fortunate enough to be one of the older coaches who's had to use your eye. So I really feel for the young guys who are now teaching, because they're not having to use their eye. The TrackMan's telling them all the information, so they become lazy. I think TrackMan's fantastic, because it actually great for fitting your equipment and getting your spins rates correct and all that stuff. But I think it's quite a danger in regard to young coaches. I think that you'd be better off to put it over on the side there, do your work, and then bring the TrackMan in or whatever, or the flight scope or whatever, and then say, oh, good, I was right, rather than just rely on numbers spitting back out to you.
Well, you're in good company with that. It seems a lot of great golf coaches share exactly the same. I know Sean Foley's, who's sort of renowned for being the data guy, says exactly the same thing. He has TrackMan for the main purpose that if, as a player, you say, what was my spin rate, he can tell you. But he doesn't necessarily use it all the time. And to your point, I do see a lot of the newer coaches coming through that is more solely dependent on what that data is, and then adjust you from that data.
Yes. So it's always good to actually have a pre-data, go in and do the initial stuff and see what the numbers are like, and then after you've done all the work and tidied the things up, go and have another look and just see if those improvements you've made as a coach is changing the data.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to go like, hey, look, you need to be 1 more degree from inside, you need to be 1 degree less shut on the way down.
Yeah.
If you've got great feel for the swing and the person, you'll be able to make those changes subtly that improve those numbers. So
well, your great players like Karrie and Sendo, are they field players?
Yeah, well, a lot of them, I can always remember with Karrie, we'd be on the range at a tournament, and basically she might get another putter, and the putting guide say, well, come here on the putting thing, and no, I don't want to see the numbers. So, a lot of the older players don't want to see that information, whereas the young people are sapping it up and lapping it up. It's different. It'll be interesting to see what it does produce down the tracks. But the scary part for me is the coaches not being able to see it with their eye first. I think that's a concern to me.
Would your ambition in the future to build on your brand and maybe have some coaches that you can influence or teach? So the Ian Triggs theory, is that something that you would look at?
Oh no, not necessarily. If anyone wanted to do that, there's no issue with that. I'd love to help people become it's just more information. There's a few guys that reached out. We sit down and talk about their fields and my fields, and so I think that's important to have those discussions to help everybody. But certainly, anytime.
Yeah, that's great.
Helping anyone.
Junior golf.
Yes.
It means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to you. That's probably the best way to give back to the game, because it creates growth in the game. We're all, whether it's from retail, whether you're on tour, the money is so huge there. What is it that you think we could say to the budding junior at home that is trying to just figure out their way? They don't know if they're going to be tour players, or they don't know. They just love the game. How is it we can help them? Is there one bit of advice that you could give them to help them on their journey?
Yeah, look, I think with children, kids playing, it's so important for them to get out and play. The more they play and the more creative they are with the ball, have fun with the ball. That's so important. Just don't get caught up in far too much technique, but get the basic sound. Those little basics that make the whole golf swing form easily for them. So some quality coaching if they can get it.
Yep.
But really playing as much as possible. Learn how to hit the ball low. Learn how to hit it high.
Yep.
Make it go around trees. all the creative chipping around the bunkers and bunker shots and stuff, and really enjoy having fun with the ball.
Yeah, such great advice. I completely agree. Are we seeing, with what you're doing at the moment, whether it's here or anywhere else, are we seeing an influx of juniors?
Yeah, look, I think the game, has been growing quite steadily, and we still need, especially in this country, we probably need still more 9-hole par threes and little places like that where juniors can go. I mean, the amount of people playing golf at the moment in our country is pretty hard to get on the course.
Yeah.
So, the more, like we really do need more of those par threes where the kids can go out there and really have their own space to play. So
I agree.
Yeah, so we do need to develop that. It's something that's even when you go to Scotland, you go there and you arrive in a little village, and here's this putting green bigger than the village itself. That's right. And all the Scots out there having a putt of an afternoon, and you think, wow, how good is this? We just don't have that in Australia. We really do need that.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Now, I know you've got a website being launched. Hopefully, it will be launched by the time this video comes out.
Yes.
IanTriggsGolf.com.
Yes, my word.
Jump on. You can book a lesson with yourself.
Yes. Well, look, at the moment, that side we can do that through Skillist.
Yes.
But certainly down the track we'll be trying to get really organised with everything all together in the one place. But
perfect. I mean, what a great thing. Everyone gets a piece of the great man. Ian, thank you so much. I really appreciate this, and I wish you and all your players the best of luck.
Thanks, Jason. Great to see you. Thanks for the chance to have a talk with you.
Anytime. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview. It means a lot to me that I got to sit down with Ian. He's been there for me through some of the darker days of playing golf, and I really couldn't do it without him. He's really been sort of inspirational for me in many ways, as well as helping me with my golf swing and my journey through playing various tours. Like always, if you really like what we're doing and you want to see more of it, like and subscribe. It helps the channel, but also it keeps you notified when I put new stuff up. Now, on the channel, we will be doing more stuff. There's no question of it. Everything that we've updated you on in the past is still happening. With lockdowns, it's obviously not going to happen as soon as I would like because I'm stuck at home. But I have had some requests for some tips, so I might do that. I can do that in the backyard for you guys. So stay tuned for that. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.